I think she's going to do well. I mean, she had teased this idea earlier, so it's like I was thinking about it then. It's like, could she make this change and do well? Yeah, I think she could easily make top three at the Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking, even if she wanted to move up to women's physique, she would still do well. So, I mean, if she's making this transition to figure, then yeah, I think they're going to be doing very well if they're going to be rewarding what we think they're going to be rewarding, which is if Jessica Reyes Padilla is still up there in the top three, then they're going to be going for a far more muscular look than they did during the Sydney area. So it's going to be a change. It's going to be if they stick with that, and my prediction is they're going to. Then yeah, I think Missy is going to do very very well. It just is a question then of what happens to the entire division. Which way does it go?
And that's why.
Because what history indicates, as I've said time and again, is that this is what happens: is that the division gets out of control. Like Keith was saying, is that they don't go with what they say they want in the criteria. The women get bigger and bigger and bigger. They don't like that, and then so what do? Just what they've done: come up with another division.
And
So,
again, that's what Sid
and
said. That's why Sid said, I'm concerned that I'm retiring and which direction that is going to go in.
right,
Because
exactly,
she was a standard. So now they could change the narrative because she was a standard. Like, again, we talked about last week. Women's bodybuilding went away. And so they had a chance to sit here and say, what do we want it to look like on the Olympia stage? Or what do we want it to look like on the world championship stage? And voila, you got Andrea Shaw. You got this face, beautiful body, great lines, great muscle bellies, and all this other stuff. And so that is now the standard of women's bodybuilding because they were able to control the narrative of what they wanted, going into the Olympia. Now we understand that Alina Popa and that Helena were champions as well, but again, at the end of the day, those women have went to the Olympia stage and did their best, but now the IFBB is saying this is the standard in which we want women's bodybuilding to be. So that narrative set, like Sid said, and I agree with what Jeremy's saying. Now we got to sit and wait. We all got to sit and wait to see what they're gonna do. Are they
Mhm.
going to stay with the Sid Gilman look? Or are they going to go big and more muscular? And that's the question that we all got to sit back and sit here and wonder what they're going to do. And that's why
Mhm.
Sid says she's so concerned about which way the division's going to head.
Yeah. We have a comment from a man, Chris Mads. He says, I'm a person that believes things should be judged by merit. And I wish, well, that's truthfully, but
Yeah,
truthfully,
so
there's
we
always
all
like
are.
that. Yeah. And also, he says this, he says, if Missy gets over to figure, that means she will just be just as muscular as Jessica Padilla or more, depending on what the judges choose to reward in terms of the look that they want. Yeah, that's true. Because she's talking about what show she wants to do right now because she has to qualify for a figure. Because even though she is the fitness champion, she still has to qualify for that division. I also got one more from Chris says, not a fan of this new division too. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. But Steve Weiberger says, everybody shut the fuck up. Well, Steve, like I told you before, these nuts. You can get on these nuts. You get like a gargle. You can squat. That's
I
what.
mean, just figure out what you got. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous. Like Jeremy said, and again, you guys have been following the women aspect of this a lot longer than I have, and it's one of those things where it's just frustrating as more so as a judge in this, as a competitor to sit here and says, I don't want to be. It's like when they asked me about second place, like oh, now at nationals they're getting first and second place. If you ask all these guys in the 80s and the 90s era, they're going to be like, "What the fuck? Really? You know how hard it was? Flex didn't get it his first time at USA's. I think he did. He's like it was his third time, second or third time before he got to USA's because the amateur field was that jacked and that fucking crowded with that much talent. So you had to work to get that pro card. Now they just giving them away like goddamn candy. And I'm talking about all divisions. So it's like, what are we doing here? It's
Yeah.
the prestigiousness of being an IFB pro ain't what it used to be. Ain't what
Mm-hmm.
it
no,
used
it's
to be.
Because
you're right. It's not.
And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
everybody, here's a pro. You're a winner. You're a winner. It's like fucking kids in sports these days. Everybody gets a
because
participation trophy. No, not everybody can be winners.
here because I just interviewed a while back a couple ladies who got their pro cards. One lady had got two, one lady got three. Then I got one coming up a couple of days where she also won two pro cards at North Americans. You know, it's crazy. We have your comment from Rahi. He says this: Natalia is the standard of
Here we
female
go with this
bodybuilding.
bullshit.
Oh my God!
Did
You
you
know
see what she posted over in her
what?
story? I couldn't believe this shit. Maybe it's even still there if you could pull it up. It's that she brought up a picture of a woman who was infected with elephantitis and her legs were like overblown because of the disease. And Natalia then said, but women want to look like this today.
What?
It's like, did you seriously just say what I thought you just said? That you're comparing women who were stricken with a disease that they didn't ask for with women who chose to become obese? You seriously made that comparison? I couldn't believe she did that. It's like, the fuck are you
Well,
thinking?
That's what happens when you hang out with Russian bears.
Oh my God. I was like, I can
but
understand the point that she's trying to make, but there are better ways of doing it than that. You don't compare people
Yeah.
who are stricken with a disease to people who are become obese because the obesity is the choice.
Yeah.
So what the hell was she thinking?
well, I just looked at it. I don't think she's. It probably was like for 24 hours. That means it's gone. I don't see it in the stories. I just look at it. But I will pull up this video here. This is from Dr. Natalie Sparring, the IFB Physique Pro, and she's been competing for quite some time. She's also qualified for the 2025 Masters Olympia. I reached out to her for, I know my man David interviewed a while back. I reached out for an interview because she was like here in the States doing a couple of shows. Maybe I get back with her, but she's really been training. This is what it means when you are an athlete and you're working and you're training and you're prepping. You know, this is the fundamentals of what people need to understand, what's involved in being a bodybuilder. So we'll pull it up here. And here she is.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2025. So I haven't done an update for a while about where I am with my training. So now I'm preparing for the Masters Olympia in Tokyo. That's going to happen in August. Now the date has been moved up by 2 weeks. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but actually it's quite significant because it does change a little bit within my prep schedule. So I've been in off season since the end of or middle of September, since I did the UK Pro. So that means I've been in off season for just over 3 months, and I probably have 2 to 3 months to go. I'm hoping to have more than less time, so I'm really pushing for 3 months of off season still. But that's going to depend how much I weigh and how lean I can stay over the next couple months. So I might start cutting or going back into my diet on the 1st of March, which is what I did last year for a competition at around the same time. So last year I competed on the 16th of August. This year I'll be on the 9th and 10th of August. So that is going to change how we plan my the rest of my season here going into August. I don't have much planned for after August yet. I'm going to see how I do at that event, and then I'll see what competitions I want to do after that. But for now, the aim is purely for the Tokyo event. I have done well in my off season so far. So I've gained about 30 pounds. Yeah, 30 pounds. And I had a DEXA scan just a few weeks or a week or two ago, and it showed that my body fat has stayed I've only gained about 8 pounds of body fat, and the rest of it apparently is lean tissue, but also lean tissue is measured as like all your organs, your bone density, and everything else. So I've gained about 10 kilograms ish of lean tissue. So that accounts for the 30 pounds. I'm at 170 pounds now. I'm 5'3", if anyone is wondering. So I would be considered obese by BMI scale, but I'm definitely not obese because I definitely still have abs. So there you go. The BMI scale is really useless for anyone who does proper training, to be fair, who has lots more muscle than the average human or average woman in my case. So the goal now is to continue putting on muscle mass because that's where I really lack down, especially my it lagged behind everyone else in my upper body. So improving the amount of density to my upper back and my shoulders and arms, and improving the width of my back too. So like making everything wider, which will then make my waist look smaller, and as well as keeping my upper body big. So my legs have definitely grown in size, my thighs, my glutes, and that all comes with just regular training for me. I have more of a hard time putting on muscle mass in my upper body, but I'm easier at getting lean in my upper body. So that's actually the case for probably most women anyway. I'm pretty good at putting on muscle in my legs. So for that, I mean, I'm still continuing to work hard with my legs. I'm not going to not train, because overall I need to have more muscle mass basically to be more competitive. So that's where I am right now. So I'm heading into hopefully 2 to 3 months more of bulking or gaining more muscle while not gaining too much fat, hopefully not more than a few more pounds. And that will make it easier for me to cut. So last year around this time, I was heading towards 190 pounds. So that's partially why my cut was so long, because I just weighed so much. I did actually get a bit fat. So if you remember what I looked like then, I look a bit smaller in a different way. Right now, I look more jacked now. That's what people are saying to me, because my upper body is wider, and my clothes definitely fit differently. But last year, I just kind of got kind of soft and round overall, and I didn't gain as much muscle as I have this year. So I'm in a much better place, which is good. And I'm just going to continue training hard, stick to my diet plan, which has been hard over Christmas. I did a lot of traveling before Christmas. Some of you may know I went to India, and then I went to the States for Christmas. So there's been a lot happening. But now I'm back, and I'm kind of focused for the next 9 months to really. 9 months would be into September, to really optimize my performance in August. So more videos to come. I will also be posting some videos of training and what I'm doing in terms of training, and also my diet over the next few months. But right now we're still trying to gain muscle, and that means working hard in the gym, sleeping well, and eating the right amount of food with the right amount of macronutrients. So I hope everyone's had a nice first week of the new year, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Now that's a good point where she talks about how what's important about develop muscle. You need rest, recovery. There's a lot involved in it. And this is one thing, as we know, the fundamentals of developing muscle. It's a process. And my man here, Keith, he's a coach and a judge at IFB Pro. And he shared experience as a competitor, the work you put in, the time you put in, and I know it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's right now, like she said, we talk about off-season mode. Well, I'm in off-season mode as well. What she was talking about, because again, we're all headed to Tokyo, and they moved it up 2 weeks. So, for us Master Olympia, competitors, we're trying to get ourselves dialed in, and I'm actually doing a couple shows actually before Tokyo. So, off season is for off season, and then getting dialed in for that show. But like she says, a lot of people think, the unfortunate thing about the fallacy about our sport is that, oh, it's not for everybody, because the definition of sanity of what we do is crazy, because we're not on stage for that long. But the diet, the cardio, the getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, eating the 6-7 meals a day, getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning because you forgot to eat a meal and have to get up and laying next to my bed, drinking a drink or eating a grapefruit or having a meal or whatever the case may be, getting up, doing the training, after doing cardio, 2 hours later, go to the gym. It's a lot of goddamn work. So what people have to understand, it takes, I look at this sport for some people, I love it when people go to the gym and says, I'm a bodybuilder. And I'm like, really? You are? There's gym rats and there's bodybuilders. And what we do as, some of the top amateurs, and I'm not saying because I'm a pro that this just discredits the top amateurs or amateurs that are have the ambitions to one day be a pro. But again, at the end of the day, when it comes to this sport, it takes a lot, to get in this sport, to train like we do, to eat like we do, to do the cardio, and all these other things that people think is so easy, and it's not. And it's expensive as shit on top of that. So she's absolutely right, when it comes to watching your body fat, making sure you're putting on the right kind of muscle, weight to make sure that you're putting on the muscle in the right areas, that, if a judge, or when you're looking in the mirror saying, I need to grow in this aspect of my area or bring my waist line down. There's a lot of elements to this sport that people don't understand that we have to go through in order to make sure that we're ready when we get on stage. Because at the end of the day, this is our job, or one of our jobs.
Mm-hmm. We got a comment from my man XA Gucci 23. Shout out to XA. He says, "Hey George, Paige, and chat. Thank you, brother. How you doing?" He says. Also, he says this. He says, "Happy New Year, everyone." In chat, thank you, brother. Happy New Year to you too. Also, we have here. This is from this is from Brock F5. He just dropped this a while ago while we were talking, and he mentioned this. We're gonna pull it. Think about getting myself a new computer. He says this. He says Tyler just announced the payout for women's physique division Pittsburgh Pro. First gets 10,000, second gets 7,000, and third gets 5,000. Well, that's pretty good. I remember that year Sarah put up about $10,000 one year, and that was the year Natalia won that money. So but still, compared to the others, we're getting like $50,000 and $200,000 here. But still, you got to think about it. There's going to be a lot of women going to jump on that show. And, for any competitors who just heard this, I'm going to post it on my IG later on. Maybe anybody who wants to, jump on that show, Pittsburgh is in. I think it's right about after or before. I can't remember. Was it after or before New York? No, I think it's I'm trying to remember. It gotta be. I think it's no. It was gotta be after. It was after St. Louis, but St. Louis is gone. So I think it's before New York and Toronto. So that's gotta be right about June. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, this thing is about building muscle. It's a process. The train, the diet, the workout, and this division coming in is telling you don't need to get up and work and train. You just gotta just do the basics. Just stay on a simple diet. Lose a little, shed a little baby fat, but not the work you really had to put in.
Right. It's the syndrome. It's what I call the syndrome. Have you ever watched the movie The Incredibles
Yes.
by Disney? And the bad guy is called Syndrome. And his nefarious evil plan is to make basically everybody superheroes. That's his plan, is to be able to sell all of his inventions so that everybody everywhere can be superheroes. And that's his way of getting revenge, because then he says, when everybody is a superhero, no one will be. And so it's along these same lines. That's why I call it the syndrome. Is like trying to make it appeal to absolutely everybody. But if you do that, it loses its uniqueness. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Cheese has been saying. It's like Trish Wood was saying. It's like everybody's trying to be average. There is a famous short story by Kurt Vonnegut, who was one of America's preeminent novelists. It's called Harrison Bergeron. And he wrote this like 40, 50 years ago. And it's practically a prediction of where we are today. And in Harrison Bergeron, they passed these 3 amendments to the Constitution. They make absolutely everybody equal, middle of the road. No one can be smarter than anyone else. If you do, they put on these earphones that interfere with your thinking. If you're stronger than other people, they put weights in your body so that you will have more trouble moving. And they try to do all of these different things because no one can be exceptional. If you're exceptionally beautiful as a woman, you're forced to wear ugly masks in order to hide your beauty. And he predicted this 50 years ago with this story. And we're actually living it today.
Yeah.
That everybody is they're trying to make everybody middle of the road. And that's what Harrison Bergeron is cursed with. He's the title character because he's incredibly strong, he's incredibly smart, and he's incredibly handsome. So everybody wants him dead because of that. And so Kurt predicted this half a century ago, that we were going to be going this way. And look at where we are. I mean, that's the so-called logic that Tyler was talking about, was trying to it's exactly this mentality. It's trying to make this appealing to everybody, and this isn't for everybody.
Well,
It's supposed to be unique. It's supposed to be exceptional. It's supposed to be extraordinary. That's why people actually are fans of it in the first place, is because of the fact it's unusual, the fact that it's extraordinary. So this mentality that trying to make everything the middle of the road. I mean, this was predicted 50 years ago, and it was then. It's back then people were like, got the point, and said, "Oh well, we should have exceptional." But look at where we are now. It's the syndrome, and it's coming, and it's here live and in color with yet another division trying to make it so that absolutely everybody can be a bodybuilder. Because if everybody's a bodybuilder, then no one will be. So
Hey, you know what my saying is? I actually have my brand that says "fuck average." I don't want to be average. I don't want to be like everybody else. In order what I do, I don't want everybody to be able to do. I don't want everybody to be able to train like I do, lift, eat like I mean. At the end of, you can try it. I hear guys all the time. It's like, well, if I was only taking, no, motherfucker, I can give you the same shit I take, the same foods I eat. You won't look nothing like me because like Ronnie Coleman best said, everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but nobody wants to eat all this goddamn food. Nobody wants to lift all this heavy ass weight. There's a lot of things that goes into it besides supplementation. So at the end of the day, when I hear people at the gym saying I'm a bodybuilder, or if I was only taking what he was taking, or whatever case would be, I'm like, okay. Again, I referred to Ben Pulaski said it in Generation Iron, the first one. You know, I can give you the same shit I can take, and Phil Heath said the exact same thing, and you will never look like I do because it's a different kind of discipline. And again, it's kind of a slap in all of our faces as competitors in the IFBB, in the NPC level for amateur athletes in the other divisions, and it's kind of a slap in the face as people who like to watch the sport because it's like, what am I watching now? This is not what I'm paying for. It's like the bet we all said. I think we all agreed on the Bev, whatever her name, Bev, the starting this new organization with the gowns and the bullshit and everything that it was going to epically fail because nobody wants to see that shit. If I want to see that shit, I watch Miss America. You know, I don't want to see that as a even if I wasn't a competitor, I wouldn't want to look at that shit. But again, like I told people, it's about the almighty coin, and it's about okay, we don't let this division get out of control, and here lies the problem. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy. Here lies the biggest problem with this. You can't go backwards. You can't. You can't sit here and say, okay, all these girls in bikini, and all these girls in all these divisions that we've let the Sarahs and the Natalia and all these girls we let go this far. How do you pull it back? You can't. Because everybody's going to go, what the hell is going on now? You can't. Because we all sat here last week and said that third place girl to me, is the epitome of women's physique. But how do you take the crown from the queen and says, we're going to give it to the girl in third place because this is the way we want the look we wanted in the first place. But now we're going to change it back to the old school. If they can't, they won't do that because they look like a bunch of monkeys, fucking a bunch of footballs. That's why. They won't ever do that. Or am I crazy?
well, they can't. I mean, if they can. That's a criticism that we've been having here, is not sticking with the criteria that you want. And I mean, girls like Sharonica and Autumn Swanson, they've made it a point to keep their physiques the way they are. They said they don't want it to be able to go there. Is that available to them to do? To be able to take it that far? Yes, there is. But they have made a conscious decision not to go that way. And to maintain their physiques rather than let them go, rather than get them lose control of it, basically. But you're correct in that there was someone else who brought this up back in the days of forum boards. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was a physique photographer who brought the exact same thing up. It said, oh, we got to get back to the 80s. And he brought this same point up that you're making, Keith. And he said, we can never go back to that. We've had 40 years of science and technology. And so we know more about the human body than we did 40 years ago. The equipment has improved. The techniques have improved. And so as a result, we couldn't go back to that look if we wanted to for that particular division. I mean, if you're wanting to go balls to the wall and push it to as far as you possibly can, talking about women's bodybuilding here, not talking about any other division.
Yep.
But you're right, we do have the ability to take it as far as you can. But the question is, they should be reining it in depending on the category. And if they're not doing that, then it's exactly what we've got today. You've got figure competitors looking like physique competitors. You got physique competitors looking like bodybuilders. You want to create a distinct look, you're going to have some restriction. And that's what that's what the guidelines and the criteria are supposed to be doing. And they're simply not following it in the judging. So on the one hand, you're correct, is that, yeah, in terms of science and technology, we have the ability to take muscularity in women to an exceptional degree. It's not legal, let's put it that way. But I mean, we still have the ability to do it. But if you're wanting to craft a particular look for a particular division, that's the purpose of the criteria, is to rein it in according to the look for that division. And if they would have followed that, if they would have done this, then you wouldn't be seeing what you're having today. You wouldn't have this ongoing criticism of the judges.
But I guess the question I guess I pose, as far as the women's side of it, because I don't see it happening on the men's side of it. But the women's side of it, I'm like, at what point in time did they say this was okay as judges? When did they say, you went from Daniel and Bailey, the first champion, to Angela, is that her name? Julianne is the second one. And then it completely started to change. It started completely. So when did they? It's like, okay, when did we say, okay, we want women's physique competitors again? Sandy, Cinder. We don't want the cross striations in the glutes, but now we have cross striations in the glutes. We don't want them as hard as women's bodybuilders, but they're harder than women's bodybuilders. They may be smaller, but they're harder. Again, women's figure. All these different categories for women. When did it? I'm just trying to figure out, when did the judges? Because like we all been saying, this comes to judges. When did the judges sit there and say, okay, fuck it, we're just going, the best girl in shape is going to win, and that's because that's what it boils down to these days. I mean, like George, I go back to George sending me a picture of Portugal. What was it, 2 years ago, George? And the girl, I couldn't tell a women's physique competitor from a women's bodybuilder, and then that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, because and the thing is that, as Jeremy said, the training has changed. Everybody's doing more weights. Everybody's working out different. Fundamentals, like any sport is involved. You go back to like Arnold, how and I'm not a big fan of him personally. I mean, love the movies. Doesn't sound like his politics would come down to the ladies, and how he started. Now he said how he trained, how he works with this muscle and that muscle. How one thing he used to do. I watched the video where he said he didn't do like regular squats because he was so tall, because Frank Palumbo was short, so he had to do the front squats with the weights because of his height. And the thing is, you have women whose body types are different. That's why they create wellness, because of girls who have the bigger hips, the thicker thighs, who probably wouldn't be able to get down to the weight of a figure or even a bikini competitor. It's a lot of work.
But I understand I understand with every sport, with football, basketball. We talked about this last week. Everything evolutionizes. The balls are different. The shoes are different. The clothes are even different. Everything's different about all the sports that we play. Baseball's changing back to the old uniforms because they said the uniforms that they wore this year, they sweat it more and they hold more sweat. So they're going back to what they used last year because it's the uniforms that they chose to wear this year wasn't breathable. What I'm saying is, at some point in time, why is it the standard for our sport, not like other sports? I understand it evolutionizes, but why is it becoming more extreme with the women, more extreme with the again, like I said, the only class I can say that it's not is women's bodybuilding, because now that Andrea set that standard because they brought it back. They're dumbing down everything. I wouldn't say they're dumb. Tina says they're dumbing down everything. By adding all these they added one category. Once you come in here and sit down.
Come in, come on, girls. You got something to say. Say a piece.
Hey, I'm saying that they're dumbing down as far as adding the new whatever fit model, bikini, big booty, small upper body, that category. All those are dummying down bodybuilding. Everything below bodybuilding is dummying down the sport. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but it is the basic of the most basic. So we're going backwards. We started with a so-called really extreme look and we can't figure it out. And then we go to women's physique and then we go to women's figure. Think about it. Women's bodybuilding was here first. Bikini was not. So we have dummied down the sport. Am I wrong?
Yeah, because like I said, this bikini really came from someplace else. It didn't like fitness and figure and even physique. It evolved from other divisions. Bikini and wellness were brought in. As I say, this no offense to those competitors. I call it divisions in invasive species. When you get like look at iguanas, they're not natural here in the States, but because people brought from other countries, boom, they get escaped. They're out there. They grow in the area. That's why in some countries they have laws where which you cannot bring certain creatures in there because that creature it will take along. Like with I think rabbits, it happened with that. If certain creatures get into an environment, it will infest it. And that's what bikini is. It's the invasive species. We have a comment here. Shout out to my man. Um, shout out my man Chris Mess. He says, I see all the incredible movies, so there's only two. Also, my man XA Gucci 23 shout out. He says, keep up the work fam. 100%. Thank you, brother. Also, this is from Chris. He says, to you, Jeremy, he says, physique, film physique fan, I love your avatar. Picture is so cool. That is from the Master of the Universe new series. All right, thank you. And also, this is from a man, Warrior 2000. Shout out to Warrior. He says, Tyler looks like the fourth member of the Jonas Brothers that got estranged by the band. Because they do have a brother. They do have. It's actually there are four Jonas Brothers. They have a younger brother because he did they did a TV show with the older brother a while back. Also, this is from man Chris says, to what end will the contest and consistency of the standard look by the powers that be in the IB stick to one criteria and always happens on the women's side, but not the men's side? It's crazy because the fact is, guys can be big freaky guys, but women you can't be big and freaky, not to an extent. It goes back to someone like Renee Tony. You remember her? She was just huge, big. She never turned pro. Huge woman, big for her size. You go back to someone like Tina Lockwood. She was huge, but she was very, even though she was muscular, she still had a feminine voice. And the training, like I said again, it's going to be different. That means again, you don't have to put in much work and time as you do. Like between both of y'all, what's y'all time in the gym during the week?
2 hours. But if you add when we started doing cardio, about anywhere between 2 and 3 hours. Right.
And then your diet, because like I said, with this division, it's mostly going to be kind of little girls that can just eat like birds.
Ain't no bird eating around this bitch.
He eats more like a bird than I do.
I ain't more like a bird than Tina does.
Well, one pull up an interview I did this past weekend, actually weekend before, with her name is Roxanne Bazninsky. She just turned pro at the U.S. Nationals in women's physique. Sorry, figure. And we brought in her trainer in a minute, and when he dropped some knowledge that really, like I said, some of it understood, but not all of it, because there's some stuff I'm still learning aspects of it. Here it is going to pick you up a little bit. And
but going into 2025, the biggest focus is going to be going off of our feedback. So when we're talking about the thickness of her back, we need to emphasize more of her upper back, so more like overhand based movements and working more at developing the traps. So for her, it's going to be more of her mid to low trap, and then working back into developing her spinal erectors. But I think, and as we progress with her program, she does have that, what you mentioned, Dorito shape look to her back, so that flare. So we're still going to emphasize working on a lot of single arm movements for her lats, but the big focus is going to be that, along with another feedback suggestion was more chest development as well. So that's going to be another big key component to her protocol going into next season.
So is Roxy one of your only competitive clients, or you have like a mix of, you know, amateurs and pros? How long you been doing it, young man?
So I've been training for about 10 years now professionally, but she's the first that I got a pro card with. But going into next season, I do have a few people that are going to be competing on the local level.
Yeah, you ever competed yourself, or you just been always been a trainer?
So for now, I have been a trainer and a coach, but going into next season, I'll be doing my show July 12th, which is the Powerhouse Classic in Michigan.
Well, best of luck to you. Best of luck to you. You are doing a good job. You're doing good work. I know you're proud of your girl, because
Absolutely.
Hello?
Hello.
George, you there?
I'm coming. I'm here.
Okay.
My computer's acting a little slow. I need to get myself another computer. I keep talking about it. But that was you know, Roxanne, her trainer Drew, is also her boyfriend, and he makes good points, especially if you look at how divisions have evolved, how the women have changed from, I didn't really follow figure that much. I know one person when I do interviews with some figure competitors, one person they often mention is Nicole Wilkins. That's I think she was one of the I think she had the most wins in figure, and then and I think after that you just had some others here and there, and then you had Sydney, and the training regiment. As he's working with her back, because often I heard quite often, when I interview y'all ladies, Tina, the back is the most important part of your development. But with this new division, it's more about the back side than the back.
Are you talking about the fit model division?
Yeah.
You heard what Tyler just said. He didn't. The only thing he said is like they still want firm glutes, whatever. So I guess
They don't want you to jiggle.
they don't want you to jiggle.
They don't want the grandma booty on stage.
They want fit. They want firm glutes, but they don't want any muscle definition.
Whatever that is. Muscle is what makes your ass not shake. Just saying.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. You're going to train and train, and then you have a judge saying, "Oh, we see a slight little satellite here, cellulite here. We see a little jiggle here." But then when those women start training, then they'll say, "You know what? My abductors are getting more tied in. I'm getting more developed, and I'm looking more like maybe figure or even bikini now." And the thing is, the judges are not really looking at the fundamentals of training. When these competitors come in here, yes, they're gonna do the light stuff like a little cardio here and there, a little this, a little that, a little this, a little light weight lifting. But then eventually, it's still again, bodybuilding is a very influential and very extreme sport. It won't take that division long before it gets infected and becomes some of the women that you see now, bikini or figure, or even women's physique.
Well,
Right.
and the crazy thing is that when Tina was competing in women's physique, she was too big. They told her that's why she was placing second and third at North America's Nationals. She was too big. But now it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the craziest shit ever. So
Yeah, and it's as I was saying before, I've said this before. My humble opinion, what they're trying to do is recover the '80s look for the women. That's what they have done with every single one of these divisions that's come up. Fitness, figure, physique, bikini, wellness. They're trying to recover that, and the reason being that's the look that sold. That's the one that was culturally acceptable. That was the one that women looked at that and said, hey, I could do that. But what they did was, and they've done this with every single one of these divisions. It's like, as you guys are saying, they're getting bigger. This is bodybuilding, not body maintaining. So if you decide to go and push yourself, yeah, you're going to put on muscle, but then what do? They come out with warnings. They come out with their memos, like they did in 2000, like they did in 2004, like they did in 2015. Hell, they did it back in 1994 with feminism guidelines. I mean, that's what they do is they come up with a warning. Hey, everybody's getting too big. You need to rein it in. But then the judges don't follow the criteria to help rein it in.
Facts.
The women are always blamed. Like I said in the last one, it just drives me fucking crazy. They're blamed saying, okay, here's what you ladies need to do to solve the problem. When the judges are the ones who fucked it up in the first place. They're the ones who did it.
Yeah, because they
So
placed
so
these
it's like
girls who they placed the
and
girls who shouldn't be where they at
and you go
there
back
when they
and if you go back and look when all of these divisions started at the look they were had and the look they were rewarding, it's exactly the same as 80s bodybuilding, or they're the closest thing thereof. And that's what was getting rewarded. But what happens is that if someone like you were saying, Keith, with women's physique, the first women who were there for women's physique around, I think this is even earlier than Dana Lynn Bailey, it's like they had a little bit more muscle than someone like an early Nicole Wilkins.
Yep.
That's what they had. But then you go to the New York Pro. New York Pro likes muscle. Juliana Malacarne had that muscle. And that's why she won that show that year. And from that point on, things changed. Because that's what the women do. They pay attention to who's winning at the big shows. New York, Tampa, etc.
Well, and the
And
funny
that's
thing
what they
that you
pay
say
that's
that,
what they pay attention to.
the funny thing that you say that because that was the first show I did was the New York Pro, and that's actually when me and Tina first met. First show she ever watched me compete at, and Juliana was there backstage. She said what she said. Had to take a year off. She had to take a year off of training to dummy her body down to get into that division. I think she said she had to stop training her legs or something. But she had to take some time off and just dummy her workouts down to get into that division. So she just didn't jump into it and says, "Hey, I'm gonna do." She had to dummy her body down to get in that division. Well, you don't have to do that no more.
Well, I think part of the problem is that all these girls chase each other's look, and none of them are even statured the same. And I can tell you, there's not one time I've looked on stage and said I wanted to look like anybody. I mean, that's literally anybody because I know myself. I have a unique look by being tall, and I know I have a prettier frame. So at the end of the day, coach brings me in the way Tina Williams looks the best, not the way Andrea does, not the way any of the girls on stage. I'm comparing Tina to Tina. And that's the problem with these girls. They want to be as shredded as so and so. They want to be as big as so and so. Well, you're not structured like they are. And at the end of the day, Cliff Bomar told me the best thing he could have ever told me, God rest his soul, one of the best coaches and judges we've ever had, and the most honest. He said, Tina, at the end of the day, when you ask all of us our opinion, what you need to do is go back and make you your best. You don't compare yourself to anybody on stage. You don't compare yourself to the winner. You don't compare yourself to the girl next to you. You compare yourself to you. How do you look better? He said, you look better bigger because you're taller. And he told me that from jump. You're always going to look better bigger. You need to go with what Tina Williams looks at best. And he was on my Miss International panel the first year or the first time that coach put me on stage. And I came off stage, got my pro card, I was bawling my eyes out, and he walked up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and he said, you came in looking the way Tina Williams needed to look. You didn't look like any girl on stage, and that's why you won. And I'll never, ever, ever,
Mhm.
ever forget that. I have absolutely never compared myself to anybody on stage. I can't. I'm 4 inches taller than most of them. So at the end of the day, what I know I need is bigger shoulders, small waist, bigger legs, because I'm a tall girl. You know what I mean? And I know my conditioning is not going to be super shredded because I'm tall and size looks better than over conditioning myself. So I feel like some of us girls need to take responsibility of saying, okay, well, that's a great answer. But at the end of the day, I can only look the way I look because there's no girl on stage that looks anything similar to anybody else. And just my
Mhm.
opinion. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's where we're failing ourselves.